Welcome back to 33-year-old boomer ranting in the kitchen of his Airbnb in the mountains of Transylvania. Can you hear the bells from the medieval churches? Probably. I'm tired of trying to make vibe coding work for me. Let's have a look.
Generally tired of trying to make vibe programming work for me. I don't know what it is, but I have to be the dumbest person in the universe because I don't know how to make it work for me. Every time I do it.
I think this is fundamentally the problem immediately, like 10 seconds in. Feeling like you have to make the technology work for you. You see, a lot of technology, especially very useful technology, it doesn't have this problem. It doesn't have the problem of trying to figure out how to make it work for you. With really useful technology, how you make it work for you is obvious. If you buy a truck, it's obvious that you can put things in the back of it and you can drive them from point A to point B as opposed to carrying them on foot. The way in which a car or a truck is useful is incredibly obvious. If I need to message someone over the internet, I can send them a message through whatever application or protocol I choose. The way in which that is useful is immediately obvious. The problem with LLMs in general, or AI, is that it's a forced meme. You're told that, oh, it's so useful, it's so good, bro. And yet, seasoned engineers like Primeagen are struggling to find a real use for it.
But I just get angry. And it's like, okay, this is all wrong. Let me redo it. And I put in all the rules in the universe and I try to figure it out. And I just keep getting upset about it. And it's just like, I'm just going to lean into using 99 until something feels better. Your vibes are off. Maybe my vibes are off, but here's what I actually think it is it's not my vibes. It's the fact that I care about the code.
And that's what it is. Look, if you think about any kind of generative AI technology, let's say image generation, the machine is very good at producing an approximation of something. So if I gave the machine the instruction to produce me an orange cat wearing a cowboy hat, there are a billion, trillion, quadrillion versions of that image that look right enough, that look correct enough, right? The cat could be more to the left, more to the right, it could be bigger, it could be smaller, it could have different shades of orange, it could have different types of hats. There are almost, and there's an almost infinite amount of permutations that it could generate where it would still be accurate to what you're trying to generate. The problem with code is that code is essentially, at its core, machine instructions. Hey, computer, do this, do that. And then the computer very precisely follows the instructions that you give it. And so the way in which you get yourself into trouble with this is with any kind of generative technology, is when you want something very specific. If you get your image of your orange cat wearing a cowboy hat, you might say, okay, give me the same image, but change the hat on the cat. I want a different hat on the cat. What it will do is it will generate you a completely different image, because fundamentally, it doesn't really understand what it's doing. The machine is being manipulated in order to generate something which makes sense to humans. And this is okay-ish if you're generating stuff that's very vague, but computer instructions have to be, by definition, very, very precise. The computer will always precisely execute the code that you give it, no matter how incorrect it is. It doesn't know any better, it just executes the code. And you end up with a very slippery problem if you're trying to generate something that's meaningful in any way with vibe coding, because the computer doesn't understand what the mark is. It doesn't truly understand what you're trying to do. It's kind of guessing in the dark. And I get why it's a very frustrating experience.
To me at all.
right? Like I don't want to let any line of code go. And since I don't want to let any line of code go, then I end up reading all of it. And then I go, no, this is all put together wrong. No, refactor this thing. No, do this one. No, do this one. And then I just keep on doing that over and over again. And then I realized that I just spent more time because I crafted a prompt, got the code, understood the code, refactored the code into what I wanted to begin with. And it's just like, okay, what did I get out of that?
Nothing is the answer. Should I turn the light on? Is it getting a bit dark? Yo, is that tough? Okay, so, man, that's kind of bright. The answer is that you don't get much out of it. And here, look, I'm not entirely against AI. I'll make a video about this at some point. There are legitimate uses for vibe coding, and that is very simple, very small throwaway projects and scripts that you're only really going to run once. So here's an example. I travel quite a lot, and whenever I do, I like to take photos and videos of beautiful things that I see. Here's an example. I was on a car ride a couple of weeks ago, and I captured some beautiful scenery up in the mountains of Transylvania. And I like to organize this on my computer. And the way that I do it is I have a system where it's like each file is called like the date in a certain format, and then the device, and then whatever, right? It's a formulaic thing. And I thought, let me just use ChatGPT to write a quick bash script to rename some of these files programmatically. And it worked. It took a couple of tries until it got what I wanted to do, and then it did it, and it worked. I would never use that in production on anything. I would never trust that. I would never trust that code. I would never give it to anyone else because it's such a very specific slop code for my own use. I would never trust that code to run a billion times. And that's an okay use for the technology. But all it really did is it saved me 5 seconds of Googling to find a different open source project that already did that. And I say 5 seconds because obviously I still had to talk to the AI multiple times, test the code. Was that really that much faster than just downloading some open source project that already does that? Probably not. Now, when you have code that you really care about, this is where it becomes a problem. So let me give an example. This is a compression algorithm that I wrote in Ruby. It's some pretty heavy documentation going through how it all works. Here's the thing though. The code for this project is almost irrelevant. The real value here isn't in the code. It's not in the Ruby code or any kind of code. The value was in me figuring out the problem. I could have gone to ChatGPT and said, hey, make me a Ruby script that compresses a file. And it would have used some built-in library, and it would have used some library, and it would have achieved that. And then I would have said, well, no, I want to do it from scratch. And then it would have solved the problem in some way that it's statistically seen a lot of times. But what would I have achieved in that context? What would that have gained me? Nothing is the answer. The gain, the advantage, was me sitting down and thinking through this problem. And I remember when I first thought about this, when I thought, if I had to invent text compression, how would I do it? I remember this very clearly. I was in a single bed in a loft in Finland, being eaten alive, it was summer, being eaten alive by bugs, because I couldn't sleep with the window closed because it was too hot. And my back looked like a topographic map of Utah because of all the insect bites. And I was thinking, how would I do this? And that process of thinking it through is what actually benefited me. It was figuring out how to solve the problem. The value is in the documentation that explains how this works, not in the code itself. And that's the problem with vibe-coded code. Now, if you're a senior engineer or whatever, and you've been doing this for 15 years, Maybe there are some instances where you're thinking, I've already solved this problem like 10 times. I know what the solution is. I don't want to type it out. Let me see if Copilot knows what it is. Okay, kind of knows, perfect. Okay, boom. But even then, is it going to be perfect? Are you going to end up having to fiddle with the code a bunch of times? Are you going to have to refactor multiple times until it works? And when you're doing that, what are you actually saving in terms of time?
And so I feel like 99 is going to actually be the thing that just improves me a good amount. I still realize another thing I like to do currently, which is plan mode, which is I actually go, okay, hey, I've never built this feature. Tell me about it. Like, hey,
Listen. Can you hear the bells?
hey, I've never built matchmaking. What are some ways to do matchmaking?
Okay, so this is a legitimate-ish use for AI. If you want to learn something, if you want to figure out how something works, it can be pretty good at that, assuming it's giving you the accurate information, which it doesn't have to do. And if you have to then verify everything that it gives you, what's the point? What are you achieving by using it in the first place? You could just read something that was written before AI and you know that it's a lot more legitimate.
Okay. Hey, I've never done this. How would I do this? Were you very strict when doing code reviews at Netflix? No. I was only mostly strict, meaning like I don't care about like variable naming. If someone uses res versus resolve, I don't care, right? Like I only care about structure. I don't really care that strong about names, long as it's not excessively incorrect, right? Like if someone said, "Hey, like items list," and the thing's a map, I'd be like, "Bro, you got to change that." You know what I mean? I hate to tell you this, but that's like super wrong.
I don't know, man. I think this is the crux of the problem. AI is useful as long as you don't care about the output. If you do, if it's anything, if it's writing fiction, if it's generating images, if it's generating videos, if it's generating code, AI, I'm sure AI is super useful if you don't know anything about what you're doing and it just seems to be super impressive. Now, the problem with me is I think I have a bit of a blind spot because I have experience generating most of the things that AI can do. I can write code, I can write prose. I've written a sci-fi novel, I'm working on more, link down below if you're interested. I've done photography professionally, I've done videography professionally. And so all the main uses for AI, I'm already, I'd say that the code is the bit that I'm the least proficient at. The writing and the photography and videography, I used to have a channel on videography. Here's some footage of me doing video. Here's some footage that I filmed a while ago. And so to me, because of that, because I'm already good at the things that it can do, it just doesn't seem that impressive. To someone who's never taken a good photo before or a good video or written anything with any kind of proficiency, I can see why this would be so impressive. But the problem is that most of those people are at a level where they just don't know that it's not very good. And I think that this is the crux of the issue, is that AI is super impressive if you just don't care about the output. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.